Okay, yeah. So welcome to the third GMs Guild of the semester. This one's going to be a light one given the weird scheduling today. It's just going to be homebrewing. Now, for those who have DM'd, how many of you have followed the module to a T?
I haven't DM'd a module.
Why would that's not
Like you don't change any details. Like, I'm almost guaranteed you have not.
yeah, that would be basically impossible in
Okay.
practice.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get at is you have to hold at a little bit at most. So it can range from like say I've ran Lost Mines before. Had the players meet the guy in a tavern where Lost Mines are just chilling out in like a carriage in the middle of town. Stuff like that. Also, you can hold the final boss you want to tucker, whereas in the module is pretty weak. So what that is. Yeah, homebrewing goes from a big range of things, small stuff to big stuff. So, how would you, when you, how would I say this? The good guy when it comes to homebrewing is make it balanced. Because when I started homebrewing, the problem I had is I made my monsters way too strong. Like ridiculously high AC and just max of like P20s for hit die. So yeah, no, party wipes all around. Any other advice anyone could give for homebrewing or how they would approach that?
All right. I guess first of all, you've got homebrewing. I guess we want to look at like what we define as that, because you would mention like changing modules,
Or, like,
because
details
there's the broader just like. I mean, changing a module.
of-
I don't know, yeah, doing
changing
that,
details of a module.
changing details in that, and then we get more into changing stat blocks or creating your own stat blocks or modifying or creating
Making your own
rules.
spells, your own items and stuff like that. Or even like making completely different loot tables. Because
Yeah.
the default loot tables that come with the DMG kind of suck.
Mm.
Like getting
True.
being a rogue that gets a belt
I mean,
to
I don't
kill
know
giant
very
strength.
well,
What am I
right?
gonna do with this? I'm a rogue. You know.
I mean, you trade it with the party among the party members. Get it's we need if
Or
one
like a
person
belt
finds
of-
something and then
More like a belt.
you have to
of-
like figure out, oh, who does this best suit, and
At
then
one time, one of my
interact in
campaign I
terms
put
of-
in, I got a belt of dwarf speak, and there were no dwarves to speak with in the campaign.
that yeah.
And that was
It's
from, like, a
you
random
want the
campaign.
DM to go in and be like, all right, does this fit? Does this make
How
sense?
I
And
would-
tweak things to fit the setting and story.
How I would homebrew is I would make separate tables for each player in my party, depending on how they play their play style.
That's
So like
that's
they get match items based on my character, depending on. It's like pre-generated loot in the video game kind of, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
why is there weird high-powered gear in this bandit kit that they're just not using? But yeah, something like that.
With that, it's neat to like, even if you don't bring it up, to plan like reasons for why items exist and why there are. And that's a separate thing. But
Yeah.
there's that.
There's a homebrew,
And
right?
it can I bet it would be fun to even if you have a group that's not, oh, I found it, it's mine. If you do, then only give the players things that are meant for them. But if you don't have if you have a group that like shares stuff, it could be fun for one person to go somewhere and find something that they're like, hey, I think you'd appreciate that. And it could be a neat character moment. But more into actual homebrew stuff, I think the best general piece of advice I can give is get feedback on it from
Yeah, definitely.
particularly the players in your game and from other people.
I know a good source people use this Reddit.
Yeah.
Like people say, "Hey, is this
Yeah,
like-"
there's a lot of homebrew on Reddit, and there's a lot of people like asking for, hey, does this seem balanced? And make revisions and through it, because you reach a lot of people and you get a lot of different views. Because it might even yeah, I feel like particular particularly the importance. I guess there's important, there's stuff to be said about both, like getting feedback from like a wider community and getting feedback from your players, because it might be perfectly fine by like wider community, like this is all balanced game wise and stuff, but maybe like your players aren't going to use it in the specific way that people on Reddit might presume it would be used, or even I don't know, players might not even just be that interested in it. So it's like good to
I do think like there are certain situations where you can't necessarily run things by your players, especially if it,
that's true.
but mainly if it's like doing so would constitute spoilers. So in which case, like seeing if you can get feedback from people that aren't your players, but
that's definitely
have like a sometimes generally approach things the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you can like reveal more since they're not in the game, and then you can be like, if they were a player in the game.
Run it by my friends.
Yeah.
Or DMs. Like, I think one time I had funny situations at Cyberpunk camping on DD5E. I made an enemy that can just punch back bullets. I ran it by and was like, the physics don't make sense on that. I don't think you have enough velocity to match a bullet, let alone punch it back.
And
but
then
he didn't offer a way to kind of get the effect that I want to do, where they have reflective plates on their armor that would ricochet back, also preserving force. And people can obviously give insight the vision you want for it in a more realistic or practical way that is more effective to your players.
And I guess that a particular reason why it's good to run by your group is I was looking at it more from lens of if you've given people like homebrew magic items and you want to get feedback on how they work or whatever, broadly applying, but you what was I gonna say? Wait a minute. It's like, I guess just do the players like it? Like, are they on board with what it does? And like, I'm not sure how exactly to say that, but like, if you make a really overpowered item, maybe your players want to be overpowered and they want to have like a MacGuffin and run around like exploding things, and you can deal with the consequences and do whatever. Maybe they really want to have like one player have a super powerful sword, but maybe they really don't want like something that powerful. Maybe they feel like it trivializes their class abilities. So getting like feedback on that and like, is your group, does your group enjoy and
that
cool
is
like
exercise
stuff else?
That's the only exercise.
Homebrew.
Also,
Hello.
Hello.
We're talking about homebrew. That's today's topic.
Yes.
For tonight. It's nighttime. Yeah, it's nighttime. It's tonight's topic.
Time is
The
fake.
sun will be down.
Yeah, the sun's going down eventually.
So
Yeah, you can continue. I'm sorry for
Oh, good.
interrupting.
Yeah. Just that, having your players' feedback is important in its own way, because while you can put tons of work into like checking it with people outside the group, and it can be totally fine, but maybe your group just doesn't vibe with whatever like thing it is. Maybe you have this super cool magic item that allows people to reverse gravity. Maybe your group's never going to use it. So it's a combo of know your group, and if you also with this might apply more in a homebrew like general rule, like say you rule everybody only has one death save now, just to throw a rule out there. Maybe your players really like that. maybe your players really don't. So make sure that whatever rules or items or monsters you're putting in the setting, make sure that the players are cool by it, because the players are going to go in knowing the core rules. So if you change it, and it has the ability to change like the kind of scope and feel of the game. So you want to be sure that your players are all right with what you're changing and doing. And not to say that you don't have a say, because you should be having fun as the DM and doing your thing. But if the group's not going to enjoy being given a gun when they're all sword fighting fighters, if they feel that breaks immersion, then the group probably won't have fun. So don't give them a gun.
One thing about magic items that I do is I do the horizontal progression of magic items, because I think most magic items in D&D are just +1 great sword. That's not fun.
Yeah.
So I usually, when I grew up magic items, I do like a sword where like when it turns blue, you get an increase to your hit chance, or when you can change it to red to increase damage, and does like a weird elemental effect randomly. Like fun stuff like that, kind of to switch up the gameplay and add a new experience. If anyone has any other examples, please do share.
I'm mostly a homebrew subclasses, to be honest.
A lot of
That's the thing I want to talk about.
artificial lights, a lot of subclasses.
I'm intending to work on an artificer subclass.
Yes, let's go.
I mean, artificer has a lot of cool subclasses. Artificer is very varied. Well, the subclasses. Yeah, I'll talk about the subclasses, but no, yeah, artificer is really broad in terms of flavor, like what you can do with it. So subclasses for that make sense.
Yeah.
I guess with what you're saying on magic items, I'm curious what exactly like horizontal progression means. You might have explained. I'm not very familiar with the term.
When you progress, number go up.
Mm.
Horizontal is when you progress, you'll
The numbers stay the same. You just have there are more. Yeah. It's not just bigger number, it's better. It's like
you get a bigger
here's a new strategic option. I agree with that. Yeah. Because give me a +2 sword. Neat. Like I will take it. Give me a sword that
shoots a movie.
or allows me to tell when someone's lying. That is way more interesting than a +2 sword. Even if a +2 sword is going to be mechanically way better. And maybe a sword lets you do a ranged attack that changes your options of what you can do, which adds magic items should feel magical. If all it does is, I can hit people, but better, there's not much magic to it.
Yeah.
Because for a certain role in the story, like if you're supposed to have this sword that's like extra powerful, then like it fits. There is a place for like static like damage boosts and stuff.
For that person, I would not consider that a magic item. Going to a black and get a quarter sword.
That's a fair point too.
I would not consider that magical. That's
I think there should be a lot more like weapon variation in terms of stuff. But that's an issue
with 5, but
homebrewing you can change it.
It makes it better. I wouldn't say it makes the system better that you can homebrew. That's a different discussion entirely. But I mean, it's like modding a video game to fix the problem. It's like,
you can do that for basically
anything.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we should bring up the big question: is homebrewing good? Because
yes.
I think the general answer is yes. Who's here that doesn't like homebrew? But I guess the question, like, what's the point in which homebrew becomes too much? Because that's a lot of the problem with homebrewing. Like, if you have the race garlic bread and you're garlic bread and you can make vampires die by kicking them with your toe. Like, there's how do you balance making homebrew to enhance the game? How do you make homebrew that enhances the game without hitting the point where this feels either unrealistic or like it's breaking the rules of the game, I guess.
Outside feedback. Because if you're just doing something, you're like in a tunnel, it's like, I think I am perfect.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know,
definitely
the
like-
garlic race. I think will improve the game a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
But then
Other
like
people will see things that you don't.
It's
A lot of
not
time.
like- yeah,
You
it's
might
like,
be so excited about kicking vampires with your garlic feet, but that I didn't think I'd ever say that sentence. in my life.
Here are STEM majors, just. raise your
maybe.
hands. Oh, we're all STEM majors.
Yeah.
So you know how like the idea of like working in the STEM field, you have to work in a team. So working by yourself, you're not gonna get anywhere. You gotta work in a team.
Yeah.
Like, perhaps back ideas are kind of the same idea, or like discussing with an outside source that isn't biased and figure out like, is this gonna be fun, or am I just wasting my time?
Yeah.
Or am I just like doing something that's completely nonsense?
I think if you're doing something that's meant to be like generally in line with like the tone and stuff of what already exists in the game, I think like also comparing it to stuff that already exists and seeing what it looks like in that way would also be a useful metric. I mean, if you're doing something different, like trying to add sci-fi elements, obviously there's not a thing you can easily compare to, but if you're like making a new type of dragon, looking at the existing dragons would probably give you a good point of reference.
especially for stuff like subclasses or races, I think it's very important to like look at the other options and make sure it like not only isn't underpowered compared to them, but also isn't overpowered. Because sometimes like you might have a really cool idea or something that you think will really improve the class, but like if you just put it on one subclass that like in a way that makes it like the optimal choice to like pick it, you can like ruin the balance of the game.
I think a thing with that is you have to be wary of, even if something's, it could be fairly balanced on its own, but if you introduce a class, say like, just a subclass, for example, that for like an artificer subclass that maybe allows you to tank a lot of damage and use weapon attacks, you've turned the artificer into a barbarian but better. So you have to be aware of, that's probably more common with magic items. If you're doing something that's already in the game, but better, that's an issue because it just overshadows
it's very
other stuff,
important not to
particularly
step-
with classes.
It's very important not to step on other players'
Yeah.
toes. Because if you have a ranger, and then your friend has like a subclass that makes him just like a better ranger, like in some way.
If you just have a magic ability to automatically track people, there goes the ranger class.
Like that's like their whole. That's the only thing that's good about rangers.
And it can be super cool if you play that out, like a ranger. But if someone else can just do it, then you lose the chance to.
Speaking of homebrewing classes and races, I have not done it personally because I just know it's a balancing nightmare. Has anyone else done that before?
Sort of.
Classes is a balancing nightmare, no matter how like.
races.
I've never homebrewed a full class, but I have homebrewed a lot of subclasses. Races can be a balancing nightmare. Depends on how wacky you want to go with it, but some races can be fairly tame and easy to balance. Because like if you're making a ghost race, that's hard to balance. Because like how do you compare the ability to go through walls with other races? There's not, at least you can't just look at the other races and be like, that's stronger than that. Because going through walls is a very powerful utility ability, but like
Hey, I mean, maybe
like, and being undead is like
that's a
can of
whole
worms
other
with
thing, like how it
mechanics.
interacts with healing spells and stuff. So
it's not really the greatest example. I've done the closest I've come to making a homebrew race is I had a character who was a Medusa, and I wanted them to be able to use their gaze to turn people to stone. But obviously that's horrendously overpowered. My solution to it was to build into the character's backstory that they couldn't/wouldn't use their eyes unless absolutely forced to. So that's more of a specific character thing. But in terms of if you want to make like a what's a good example? Like what's a race that just has an innate ability that's really strong?
Medusa's a very good example.
If you were going to make a general Medusa race, some things that I've seen talking about that include things like maybe you can use your gaze 3 times a day. with a lower save or something.
Or like I've seen a lot
some
of,
races
like
progress with
temporary
levels.
petrification,
So,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Paralyzing.
Yeah.
Yes,
As a
actually,
reaction.
yeah.
I know, no, that's based on the tiefling, like tieflings have a college review.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like so the D10 per level,
Oh, this
I
one.
yeah.
think it's either like 2d10 or 3d10 the version.
I know it's
that I
3D10 on my team, but it's a 3rd level, so I don't know if it scales up with the level. But yeah, 3D10 is like fire. That's pretty out there. And you can, I guess for the Medusa example, you get like, it will do a paralyzed spell on a reaction.
Yeah.
And they have to do a save. And,
Or even if it was your action to just be like, you can't, it's not like, oh, I do all my attacks and normal class stuff, and then all this other stuff. It can be, this replaces your turn. And I guess a thing with that, with turning monsters specifically into playable races,
Yeah.
monster stat blocks are built to fight a party,
Oh, yeah.
a group of people. So something like the Medusa's Gaze, you look around the room, everyone in the room turns to stone.
Yeah.
If
You
you were
should
going to
not
put that as a
just do you should
PC,
not
I
just
would
count
limit it
basic.
to
Yeah.
one person,
Yeah.
one target, because yeah, and say you have like a creature that has a aura that poisons people.
Yeah.
Maybe limit that to poisoning one person, because if you just take over the battlefield and
Yeah.
without even using a class ability, that I don't know.
Yeah.
That
does kind of
Yeah.
make me want to play a Medusa who had all their snake heads cut off.
That's
That's
exactly
a-
what
that's
I
a-
did.
Like, UNT.
Yeah.
Who are you, UNT?
I mean, yeah, it was a UNT, but they got all their little snake hairs cut off.
Mm.
That's a cool concept. I'm writing it down.
Yeah. So I think that's on one of your side subclass. I know we did brief subclasses.
Yeah.
Let's go farther into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How subclasses are a lot easier to balance in comparison at least to.
Yeah, there's a lot less stuff to make than
Well,
a full
A lot of
class.
stuff to break and also a lot
I mean,
of
with a
stuff
full
to-
class, you need to make subclasses too. So
I think
Um,
subclasses are harder to balance than races, in my opinion. They
Yeah.
are definitely,
I
yeah.
think the opposite.
Really?
Yes, because
Hmm.
races, you have to think how it interacts with everyone else. And there's a lot
There's-
of races in D&D.
there's more of, it's easier to mess up balancing a race, I think. Or
I think more people, I
It's-
can see that. I think more people make the races horrendously
Yeah.
overpowered or very underpowered. But I think
a class has a lot more abilities.
subclass not only has more abilities, but they're also way more impactful, or at least should be
Yeah.
more impactful than the race. Yeah.
The upside is that there is like there is a sort of structure already for what you should be
Yeah.
doing, because
Yeah.
like the subclasses have to get certain things at
Mm.
certain times.
Yeah, that's how I would find that easier. Let's do a quick example. How would you, what subclass would we have for an artificer? That is
Here,
a very lucky
yeah,
sub-
I was working on that. Can I explain a little bit of that?
Yes, go ahead, yeah.
I haven't worked on it in a while, actually. I got to do that. But I wanted to make like a artificer subclass that uses runes to kind of as like letters to like cast spells. To start doing that, I was like, all right, what do artificer subclasses normally have? I looked through all the artificer subclasses. Weirdly enough, every single artificer subclass gives you a action ability that allows you to do something like a couple d6 damage as an action. Every single artificer subclass had that ability in some form,
All
be
of
it
them get
summoning a
bonus
turret,
actions.
punching people with
Yeah.
armored gloves, having a companion that attacks. So they're actually, specifically in Artificer, they're very similar mechanically. And you can see if I make something that can do 3d6 damage, that just blows everything else out of the water. So you have to keep it damage-wise around the same level. And you have to balance that. All right, if I'm going to also give them abilities that are utility, that are stronger than the other subclasses, maybe I reduce the damage or stuff to consider in that. Usually subclasses have similar type of abilities at each level increment. The third level gives you like a base ability that usually is built on later on. So I don't know how far I actually got making my subclass, but yeah. I think Artificer, what a lot of them do is, or a couple of them, scratch that. What one of them does, the turret one, is gives you like a resource you can make. Actually, no, you can make some other good ones, can't you? Well, there goes that. All right, but yeah, in some subclasses you'll have to be like, all right, you can do this X amount of times. I don't know where I was going with that, but it.
You're going with like the structure of how the other subclasses work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Each kind of class has like a general scaffolding of things they get. Artificers, I made one artificer subclass. Funnily enough, I started working on a rune artificer. I did not get very far. I made like one ability, I think. And I had a few ideas, but artificers, as far as what they get, all their subclasses give you a bonus action. Turret one lets you fire your turret as a bonus action.
Oh yeah.
The companion one lets you attack with your little guy as a bonus action. The armor one lets you get temporary hit points as a bonus action. And I think well, the alchemist is the only one that doesn't give
the
you
alchemist is the outlier.
But the alchemist is also not a very good subclass in my opinion.
It's really interesting flavor wise.
Oh, I love the flavor.
I think part of that might be because you can do so much different stuff. It's less powerful. You can't choose what you're gonna do, which is a little odd, but it might be overpowered if you could because of how much.
That's kind of the problem. I think they tried balancing it, but I think it didn't end up working because I think a lot of the other artificer subclasses are reliant on their bonus actions for what they do in combat. All the other ones kind of have, I can do a ton of extra damage as a bonus action, or I can like become tanky as a bonus action. The alchemist is kind of left flailing in combat, and they're just like, I cast a cantrip, I guess. That's what I do. Yeah, cantrip.
So how would you homebrew an alchemist to make it work?
Well,
to not
the other subclasses specifically give you combat options.
Yeah.
So
that's my problem. The alchemist is really left flailing in combat.
There's a lot of stuff that they can do, but they don't have combat.
Yeah.
I mean, my immediate, I haven't looked at the subclass itself for a while. Immediate instinct could be like some ability to make vague, unstable alchemist thing and throw it at your enemy.
Yeah, something like that. I definitely think would really be all that's needed to like improve it. Like anything that just something that they have to do in combat, really. But also, I think the alchemist as a concept is kind of weird on an artificer because the things that artificers get as part of their class is all like actual tinkering like stuff. They can like increase the sword damage and stuff like that. And just the image of like an alchemist with all the potions like going to a sword and I don't know, I guess pouring a potion on it. I don't know what they'll do to a sword.
An alchemist is like a really cool flavor that I bet a lot of people wanted. I don't know that it fits exactly in artificer.
I've seen a lot of really good alchemist classes. Like a lot of people, that's something a lot of people try to do, and I think it works best as its own class, or maybe like a druid subclass or something else. I don't know, but I don't think it works in artificer. Yeah.
I guess one kind separately one a thing that I think you gotta look into when you're making a subclass or a class.
Yeah.
What exactly are you looking for, and does it require making a subclass, or does it exist somewhere else in the game?
And also, would it be? It's like I'm trying to go. It's like you can't make a subclass for wizards like gun wizard. He has guns. He can kill people.
I'm gonna just delete.
Be realistic. That's
spell slinger wizard I started making.
If you want to make a wizard, if you want to do a campaign that's like technology based, and you have a way to balance a gun wizard,
like a gun wizard,
then I could see it being interesting.
Like say making a subclass is just Iron
but,
Man.
It's
like that's not gonna. That's just overpowered.
Doesn't fit with the overall class. If you're making a subclass, doesn't fit with the classes.
Well, to be fair,
and
the armor artificer is Iron Man.
But it's not like he shoots laser beams when he
actually he does.
The
artificer, the armor does shoot laser beams.
Yes, they can.
They can shoot laser beams from like over 100 feet away.
They're still like
the laser beams do normal damage.
They do like 1 or 2 d6 at 120 feet.
Well, they do 1d6. They do 1d6.
You become a archer, but with also with other spells. So
to be fair, rangers also have spells.
I feel like there should be more ranged options in terms of like having a bow like a fighter. Or ranger can do a bit through spells.
Yeah.
But there should be more look to range fighting.
Oh yeah, range fighters can just like
It's
because
I
like
think
melee
it's a-
fighters,
I think
they're
probably-
fairly one note. They do
Yeah.
just attack, but at least they can grapple, they can push you, they can do stuff. Range fighters can only shoot. That's their only option.
I guess a thing with possibly a reason why there hasn't been a lot of focus into making like really good ranged fighters or fighters as a broader word. If one character is really good at range, the rest of the party doesn't get a chance to engage potentially, because if you have the ability to lock someone down at a distance, it's not a good idea strategically to just walk up to them.
Yeah, you should just like
So, logically, the best thing to do is to stay at a distance where only one party member can fight.
Yeah.
So that's probably why they haven't done that. And that's a thing too to consider with making specifically homebrew classes and subclasses, but anything. Will this make a task so easy that other players
yes.
don't have a chance?
Yeah.
If you have something that allows someone to sneak really well or just to teleport and circumvent traps, the rogue doesn't need to sneak in anywhere. So it's even if it's not necessarily overpowered or like something, are you going to lock someone out? That was brought up before, but yeah, are you going to lock someone out of their utility?
Yeah.
I know I brought up the analogy of how Homer is kind of like modding a video game, and kind of we've been discussing like in the sense like in a video game adding a cool sword is kind of at the top of the conversation. How about modding to patch stuff?
Yeah,
So,
fixing rules
back
that
to
are they don't like.
Rangers in
Like-
5e are very underpowered.
Yes.
I used a ranger the first time I played. I had a great time. I remember at like level, it was 5 or lower or something. I did like 21 damage in a turn and I was hyped. I had a great time. I guess that was the first time we played, so it's not like anyone in the group was really
Also, depends on
building
campaigns.
powerful
Yeah.
characters, but I didn't at any point feel underpowered.
Depends on the
So
campaign.
what is,
So
do you guys like,
That's their
what,
preferred environment thing.
that's
Depends on the
that's
campaign.
true. A
Like,
lot
if
of the
you're only
abilities
between different
situation.
biomes, it really messes you up. But the campaign's on like just like dark forest forever. It's like you really shine. So it's a mixed bag, really.
Yeah.
Well, I think my thing with Rangers is that they really don't unless it's a very survival focused campaign, and then like they get better. But most campaigns that I've been in have really like kind of very much ignored most of the survival aspect. Or at least where navigation wasn't a huge problem. It might have been something nice. It's definitely nice to have a ranger, but it was never really anything too huge. And I don't think rangers get enough combat wise to make up for it. They have hunter's mark, but that doesn't scale really.
So
Yeah,
that doesn't
people,
scale
like-
with homebrew to fix it. They make it scale.
Admittedly,
Yes.
yeah, if Hunter's Mark scaled, that would be really good.
Yeah.
What I ended up even doing is doing a weird combo of like it's possible it was homebrew, I don't even know, subclass for the ranger, and then combining it with fighter with another probably homebrew subclass that I stacked in a weird way to make myself overpowered.
Nice.
But yeah, ranger, yeah, like the later levels of ranger
Yeah.
I don't remember it very well, but I don't remember that there being anything particularly.
Yeah, what I kind of think about Ranger is like if we compare it to the two other half-casters, the artificers and the paladins. I think those are the only other two. So paladins get divine, they're not half-casters, they have a separate thing. They get 9th level spells.
Warlocks are weird.
Yeah, but they scale. The warlocks get their increased spell levels at the same level as everything else.
Yeah, they're kind of
They're their own thing.
there's this
Yeah.
weird balancing thing where if you're taking the game expected amount of short rests, they're getting roughly the same amount of spell stuff. But in my experience, usually people are taking much fewer short rests, so it's like
I think that's definitely a That's
I'm playing
definitely a thing
Warlock
with,
in a campaign. We're doing like short rests every like
yeah.
like multiple short rests campaigns. So I'm just like loaded up on spell slots constantly.
Yeah.
I think that's a reason why you want to talk to your players about stuff in terms of balancing, because if you make like warlocks work totally differently from most other classes, but presuming that just like a order of this much stuff a day happens, it will be balanced. But but because it has a different type of mechanic upon like recharging abilities, you won't. If you change that pace, it'll affect some classes in different ways. So if you want to create some homebrew thing, you want to know what type of game is this going to go into.
In that case,
Is this might be mechanically totally fine from an outside standpoint, but if your group takes short rests every 10 minutes, or if they never take short rests, if half your abilities are short rest, you're either going to be really overpowered or really underpowered.
Yeah.
Same with like magic items that recharge on a short rest, or magic items that recharge after 2 days. If your campaign spans a longer period of time and you only run into combat every month or 2 weeks, you can give it a huge recharge time. It won't matter at all.
Yeah.
So, and it'll just be overpowered. So that's
I think coming back to Rangers for a second, if you like compare them to Paladins, they, in terms of being like the kind of combat half-caster, Rangers kind of fail at every level, because Paladins have Divine Smite, so they definitely do more damage.
they have the erases. Just
But
erase somebody.
like Rangers, the only thing Rangers have above Paladins in terms of combat is their range. They can do range stuff. Not all of them have to, but that's kind of the leg they have above them. But they just don't really get anything to make up for that gap, I think, in damage. I think it'd be cool if they get it in accuracy somehow, but like more critical hits.
Or more hits per.
Yeah, or at least more attacks. I feel like Rangers like should get more attacks.
That's a neat point with like the accuracy thing. Usually classes don't have like this class favors hitting more often, but we do less damage. Like that feels like a distinct like that feels like a thing that should exist. Like that should be a play style of more assured hits. But like, I mean, Samurai maybe does that, but that's like it.
I know there are some
the
feats that are like but I think the ones I'm thinking of are like the opposite of that.
The -5 plus them.
Let's look at it. I guess one thing for Rangers can do pretty much everything to a degree. They're like super versatile. The issue is that a lot of the time people are looking to, it's hard to stand out in that way, because being good at something like, I don't know, the Drist books, Drist Orden is Ranger. He does a ton of different stuff, and he's adept to a degree in like fighting, magic, tracking, talking to people, everything imaginable. Great for a solo character going on an adventure. But when you put that character in a party where everyone else is specialized in one thing better than you, if your party covers all of the bases, you won't get a chance to shine, because there will always be someone to step up who is better at that specific thing than you. If you have a small party, like 2 or 3 players, a ranger could be really good because you cover all the bases that your party lacks. But in a larger party, it's hard to.
That's why I think bards also go for that kind of jack of all trades thing. But bards are full casters with tons of really powerful and good abilities. So I think bards actually succeed, not only being good at everything, but also being specifically good at social situation. And just generally helping everyone with their bardic inspiration, doing pretty much anything. Where rangers,
I guess that's the point with. Sorry to bardic inspiration. You can be good. You can be like passively good at a lot of different things, Bardic Inspiration isn't a big buff, but you get the chance to be like, oh, I'm gonna improve the thing of another player, which feels like more of an impact. But that's
I forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, I was gonna say like when it comes to I guess going back to the whole classes, kind of make them specialized so they can fit most niches in a party. Those like with the ranger, if you have a lot of ranged casters, what the hell's the point of a ranger? You know?
Yeah, if you're making a class that can do an absurd amount of damage one time and that's it, it's just like a warlock put on steroids or something, or a sorcerer on steroids.
It's like throwing all your rocks.
It might be balanced, but it doesn't. There's already like a role for that. It's slightly different. That's a different thing, I think. But
and that point starts to the question of, is this actually fun to play? Because you get to do your one thing, and then it's like,
if you have if all you have is resource abilities, like I guess there's a point to artificer. Artificers don't have a ton of spells. So if all you can do is cast a few maybe really cool spells, maybe you give like some special abilities that buff the spells and you cast them and you're done.
Yes.
That's it. The artificer counters that by having every subclass gives you like all right, every turn I can do this and do damage in combat without relying on spell slots, which
that's
will
the
run
very
out.
interesting thing.
And
because they all artificer
as
as a class is I think is out of all the classes the most reliant on the subclasses to be good.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, like they get huge bonuses for their subclasses. Always things that they can use very often or even all the time, except for the alchemist, who can make like a potion once and then has to use a spell slot to do it again. So
yeah, like you were saying, if fun to play is like really important because you could plan through it and mechanically balance everything and have it worked out and reviewed, and it's great. If you sit down to play it and it's not enjoyable,
fun to play should be the goal. Balance is just a way to make it more fun to play with, but
balance is to like make sure you don't
mess with the fun of other people.
Like make sure you don't make combat too easy, or you don't change the balance of combat or
the fun of
trip up other players.
We didn't talk about monsters, right?
I'm not much.
Let's pivot over to monsters. That's going to be the exercise for the rest of this thing. So, what are the steps to homebrew a monster?
Well, how I do it,
like just from scratch.
Well, from scratch, usually I don't like homebrewing monsters from scratch. Usually I take one, even if it like looks completely unrelated and just change it to like fit what I want.
Yeah.
Just because that's easier than being like, well, how much I want this to be CR4. How much health is it supposed to have? I don't know. Just take a look at a similar-ish CR4 monster and just kind of go from there. Maybe take the hit points and then completely change everything else, or maybe take the hit points, some of the stats, and like one trait. Kind of like I think you have to have some sort of like base to go off of. Or at least it's very helpful.
So I like start from scratch with like how I do is add like an inspiration from a different medium, like a movie or something. Like, okay, that monster in X movie, how would I adapt to the D&D kind of, or just any system? I want to see like what this system has that I can use to like adapt this here and kind of play around with it. So anyone see the movie Alien? Or familiar with it? Like if I wanted to adapt the xenomorph into D&D 5e, how would I go about that? I think, all right, so this is like a biomechanical monster. So it probably has a lot of health, but a low AC because it's just flesh. No armor on that.
It's very specifically armored. It's like bulletproof.
I've adapted so at least you can try it and not get KO'd immediately.
If you hit it, it has acid blood that will kill you.
I mean, if it's heavily armored and
The
also pretty
xenomorph-
dangerous, then just it's a
I think
Yes.
the
high
xenomorph
CR.
represents like a different kind of class of thing. For that, it's not about balancing the stats of it. It's this thing cannot be killed without specific planning and figuring out a way.
Yeah, I think some monsters are not ones that you should be like let's grab our swords and hack at it
Yeah.
until it's dead. Some monsters, it's like
Run away.
we need some dynamite.
You somehow ended up in the lair of a sun dragon, which is the sun. I don't know how you ended up there. Don't fight it in the sun. You'll die.
Don't
Fight it.
Don't fight.
Somehow get the sun dragon out of the sun.
Yes.
Then maybe you won't take 24 d10 damage a turn.
Oh
Yes.
no, that's
I mean, if you've already gotten into the sun, it's kind of your fault if you die at that
just
point.
wait for the
Yeah.
sun to explode.
At that
and then
point.
kill it. Just wait 1 billion years for the sun to disappear.
Yeah, I mean that's a plan.
That is the plan.
Ooh.
Just wait. Where were we? Oh yeah, monsters. Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably move away from Zero. That's too OP. Let's
But I mean, I guess that's a
That's
good
like
thing
a
to
horror
look at.
campaign
Like
monster, I guess, I don't know.
having monsters that break the normal rules of combat. Because I feel like a lot of the time that's definitely why I want to homebrew monsters in some cases.
Yes,
Because-
homebrew monsters, I know last was we
Yeah.
have a non-Newtonian jelly.
Yeah, that
Right.
thing's come up. I've seen a lot of.
So for everyone, the concept is to hit it, you have to get below the AC. Because non-Newtonian fluids work in a way where, like, if you go at it hard, it acts like a solid, but if you go at it soft, it acts like a liquid. And that's basically a jelly that acts like that.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So,
But also I think I
that
really like it
creates-
as a player.
Yeah.
Because technically speaking, my character should be able to willingly just
That's a good
less
point.
hard.
Yeah. And that would be like that would depend. I think being able to enjoy that would depend on the party. So
yeah.
see if the
definitely.
party is interested in trying weird combat mechanics. But if as the DM you don't say anything and just like, oh, bounces off, or it doesn't seem hurt. Or if you just they just hit it and keep hitting it and nothing happens, that's not gonna be fun.
Yeah.
If they hit the monster and you describe how like the flesh, despite looking soft, just your sword clangs off it like it's steel, that's interesting. And then it becomes, okay, let's think about this. Maybe you can make an ability check and try to figure out what's going on and what to do about it. It would depend on how you run it. So, and it would depend if your players are on board. If your players just want to kill it,
If
then
I were running it that way, one thing I would put a big emphasis on is a pattern.
yes.
Humans are good at discerning patterns. And if there's a real pattern that a player can discern and figure out how to like work around it, that can help make it kind of interesting and also balanced.
Repeat the same thing over and over
Yeah,
again.
repeat the same sequence of stuff. So like
Yeah.
you can figure out, oh, it happens in this order. How can we do it? We talked about it last week with the monsters, with role playing a monster, but it kind of applies here. And speaking of combat rules, I have an example I've done. I did a one shot during Halloween. It's called this fortune. So in the first room, I called it the bureaucracy room. It's basically a big joke on the RP or TV or whatever you call it. Basically, every action, and you do an action like say I punch you, it wouldn't do it immediately. You get a ticket, and until the ticket gets served, it actually goes through at the place. So like you just move, the punch would just still be where there. And so that was kind of the pattern. It's like, okay, so we know this ticket, once the counter hits that, the action happens. So they would like plan their actions in different areas, bait the monsters into those areas until the ticket gets served. And I should say every round the counter goes up. So like it kind of like makes it like a chessboard, I guess. A combat chessboard of like stuff happening. That's like the thing, like going back to like patterns and rules that are different but easy to understand or easy to discern.
Yeah. If you have a change in the rules, make sure that your players know that
You
something is
can't
up.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Saying it outright is
Um,
kind of ruins the fun.
yeah. Like, I guess one case, I don't want to diss my DM, but he had there was this guy enemy that we faced, and he, when he went to fight us, reached into his bag, pulled out cocaine or something, snorted it, and turned into a werewolf. I don't know what that was about, but we knew this city was full of drugs. We didn't know that there were werewolf drugs.
Right.
We'd encountered werewolves before, normal ones, not drug werewolves. Anyway, so that happened, and the immediate reaction was, "Oh, okay, that's a thing that exists." Took drugs, turned into a werewolf. That was in the back of our minds. maybe we'd beat him and we'd like check out the pouch, investigate that. But we proceeded to almost get TPK'd. Half the party died. We brought him back. That was a fun time.
Werewolf on cocaine, I mean.
Because the guy just wouldn't die. It turns out what was happening was the werewolf guy was repeatedly taking more cocaine out of the bag. But the DM did not describe this. At least, to be fair, I was online, so I might have missed it. Everybody else was in person.
How did the
But,
werewolf not die of a heart attack?
I don't know what it was
That's not
actually.
cardiac
But
arrest rate.
if he had described that in a way like when the werewolf took their action every turn, you see them reach into that same pouch, bring it up to their face, and then their eyes flare up and they rush in to charge at you, then it would be, oh, okay, he keeps getting stronger from that. We have to stop him from taking more drugs.
Yeah.
It was in the back of my mind, so I decided to do that on my own anyway, but there was no indication that that was happening. So if you're going to do a rule like that, you have to be sure that you have to be sure that the players can pick up on it, which usually means mentioning it more than once. If you repeatedly say, oh, they reach into their bag and rush to charge at you. Next turn, they reach into their bag, rush to charge at you.
I think just getting like that pattern.
Yeah.
Of, like, okay, so it's like obvious every turn he's snorting more.
Yeah.
And he's
Creating a pattern in enemies specifically with like special rules helps a lot, because just saying it once at the beginning, it's possible to figure out, okay, he might stop if we take that away, but not always assumed. And yeah, if it's not obvious, it turns into we're hitting this guy and he's just not dying, and that's it, and it becomes frustrating. So you have to be sure that the players know that there's something they can do, I guess.
Let's move on to the exercise. So
I explained that probably several times over, but I hope that made sense.
So
Anyway.
as you can see, there is a map with a box. That box is a room. You can pretend it's a room that is somewhere.
We were told to grab
Your job is to homebrew a CR1 monster. I think it's a thing called, and I just made it called DM rule. It's like Russian level DM. Actually, pre-made character sheets. Just pick whichever one you want.
Fun. Fighter? No. Oh, they're all fighters. Okay,
There's
two
a
of them.
rogue in there. It's just for
Fighter level 9. Oh my god.
That's what's supposed to be there.
I know what I'm thinking.
There's supposed to be more in this box.
There's just 2 fighters and a rogue.
There's supposed to be 5. I know there's a wizard in
I mean, can I play the level 9 fighter?
here. No.
Okay.
It's CR1 monster. Oh, there it is. The dwarf. There it is. Yeah.
What's that?
Cleric.
Makes me sound like it's a weird.
And the high elf was.
Which one's this? The human fighter. That's also a human fighter. Okay.
This is what came in the starter kit for this monster. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys 30 minutes to make your monster, then we'll start DMing right off.
Wait, which fighter do I want to be? Do I want to be the noble? Do I want to be the folk hero?
So here.
Thank you.
And then the DM gets 1 right here. And then if you want to look for inspiration, check all these books. I got the 3rd edition 3.5 5e and the Pathfinder book. If you are going to look at the 3.5 ski stuff, ACs are really high in those. If you're deck to 5e, I'd say lower those a bit. 3.5e is weird. Yeah, what number is good?
I go with the melee fighter.
You guys do that. I'm going to use the bathroom.
For 30 minutes?
Not for 30 minutes. A minute, then I'm going to come back.
Oh, I've this. All right. So I guess we'll just be playing them later.
Yeah. Do we each homebrew a monster or what's
Yeah,
what are we
I
doing?
think so.
Okay,
Whatever.
great.
Are
I
we
guess
doing
we
it
do.
individually or?
I don't know.
Do
I
we
guess
want to make monsters that work together?
I mean,
I think we do one CR1, right?
yeah, because
Are we
we're
adding
all,
one?
Wait, are we collectively making one monster?
I
Oh, yeah,
I
that
think-
would make sense because it would be hard to beat 3 CR1s.
well, we might also do 3 battles because they
That's
should be
a fair
pretty
point.
short.
Actually-
CR1.
That's probably the goal because then we can
Yes.
test. It would be hard to test what works and what doesn't if you put everything in.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a thing for the recording people. If you change a bunch of rules, don't test them all at once. Test
On
one
the
thing at a
recording
time so that you can see, all right, does this
Okay,
work?
touch that.
Does this work? If they're small rules, just chuck them all into a game. And like, if you're trying to test run rules and they're like small,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe ignore what I said, except for the case of monsters. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Whatever. Monsters with weird abilities overlapping could be a problem. And that would be a thing to consider. Like maybe 2 monsters have weird abilities that are balanced on their own, but together it's super OP. Not inherently a terrible problem, but don't put them together unless you intend people to die.
so if we're all making one, do either of you have like pen and paper on you or anything like that?
do not.
I didn't bring anything with
I
me.
think there's paper in the stationery box of strawberries right there. I just write on my phone. That is no eyes. Are we gonna?
There's like 5,000 pencils in here.
Do I go with a normal type monster or do I go with funky ability? I mean, I guess every monster really has like a weird ability. for the most
Not
part.
all of them, but they all should. Funky
Yeah.
abilities
Just
are-
make it
All
like-
memorable monsters do.
The
There
front
are
half
normal
is normal and the
monsters.
back half is some weird creature.
I feel like designing monsters to fight level 1 players is the hardest because they will die in like 1 hit. So you can't really do
Yeah.
it if you can't do a big boss fight at level 1 because they'll just die.
Level 1 is really interesting though
Oh,
too
but
because
are
of
we
because
each
of-
making our own or are we making one
He
together?
should make your own.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that.
All right.
Do you have paper in here?
I have a notebook with paper in it.
Give me a fantasy theme. What's a thing that happens in fantasy?
Wizards.
Wizard.
Do it, wizard.
Beam generator. Beam generator. Let's see. Okay, I don't like this.
Here, right. Let me look at my. Let me look at my.
Need just one
I have
piece of paper.
my DM files on my photos. Let's see here. What? Oh, that's horrifying. Who wants to fight? Who wants to fight this
What's that?
Fun.
Puppy!
Ah,
wolf with eyes,
Can I pet
with
it?
ooze coming out of all the eyes?
oh no.
But am I allowed to pet it?
Let me start.
If you'd like. Um. What?
Pass me that one. Use that one or is that?
No.
I have a folder for DM notes, and for some reason, there's a picture of a squirrel in plate mail on it.
Yeah, seems about right.
What did I plan to use this for? I don't know, but I love it. I want to add that
That's
to
like
my
a Monty
next
Python
game.
joke right there, the killer squirrel.
That would be pretty great.
I was gonna make a puppy, but then I realized we're gonna kill it. So
Make it an equal puppy.
no, I was gonna make it like a fully like an angel puppy, and like, it charms you so you can't attack it and stuff. I feel like that's a bad idea.
It's an angel puppy, but don't worry, it can attack frogs, you can kill it.
Yeah.
Should we go more wacky cool stuff?
You can go however you want.
I
Everything
think
you
that'll
want.
be fun too. I don't know.
The creative
figure out what-
control isn't.
Yeah.
You can have
Hmm.
Sir Wiggles the.
You know what my favorite monster in D&D is? It also has the funkiest mechanics. I believe it's CR1 actually. It's called a Nilbog, which is goblin backwards. It's a special type of goblin. It's official. I gotta look this up. But it's my favorite monster. I'll tell you why. It's got 2 really funny features.